They switched him at birth. 2 babies, 2 families, 1 hospital error, and nobody fixed it. Not because they couldn't, because they didn't want to. So he grew up carrying water in a courtyard that was never his, answering to a name used like a punishment, doing the work of a servant in the house of people who knew exactly what he was, and chose not to say it. His name was Kang Minho, and the only thing no one could take from him was the way he looked at the sky. She saw him when she was 9 years old, standing in a doorway at the Han estate, holding a tray of cold tea she completely forgot about, because there was a boy in the courtyard carrying a basin twice his weight, and a man shouting his name like it was a curse, and the boy was not flinching. He wasn't looking at the man. He wasn't looking down. He was looking at the one strip of sky above the roofline that didn't want anything from him. She filed his face the way you file the first thing that ever shows you what unfairness looks like when it wears a human face and keeps walking anyway. She carried it for 14 years. She didn't know she was carrying it. She just was. 14 years later, she's 23, precise, patient, working at her uncle's real estate firm, reading contracts the way other people read novels. And then she hears his name, Kang Minho. 3 distribution corridors in Itaewon, 2 rival networks absorbed in 18 months. The fastest, most precise operation in Seoul's underground. Clean the way very well organized things are clean. Not because nothing violent happened, but because everything that happened landed exactly where it was meant to. He's 26 years old. She thinks about a 12-year-old not spilling a drop. And then she hears the story about the basin. He found it at 15. Old wood, water dark, forgotten in a back storehouse on the estate. He was carrying it out to be disposed of when he dropped it, and it cracked. And the grain that fell out was not the handful he'd placed inside hours before. It was a basin's worth. He kept it, repaired the crack himself, tested it. A coin became 20, a handful of salt became a sack, earnings became a territory. A territory became a name people said with their doors closed. But here's what no one understood about what he built. The first thing he ever put in the basin wasn't money. It was discipline, attention, the practice of seeing clearly without looking away from what was there. Those multiplied too. He called her. Said he needed a contract reviewed, not by the firm, by her. She said, those are the same thing. He said they aren't. And then, quietly, with the efficiency of a man who has decided truth is the fastest language available, he told her why he called her specifically. 14 years ago, you saw something in a courtyard that most people have spent 14 years pretending not to have seen. I want to know if you are still the kind of person who sees things clearly. She said, I saw you, I didn't look away. He said, I know, I saw you too. She had not known that. She sat with it for one long breath. Then she said, send me the documents. What follows is not a love story. Or, it is, but that's not the only thing it is. What it is. 2 people who read structures instead of surfaces, finding each other in the space between a land acquisition contract and an 11-year scheme to compromise an entire corridor. She found 4 irregularities. He told her there were 3. She found the 4th anyway, the one buried 11 years deep in a transfer history. And he confirmed what she already understood. She wasn't being tested on the documents. She was being tested on whether she would stop where she was told to. She didn't. There's a man named Shim Jung-soo who spent 11 years building a net to catch the Han estate. Kang Minho dismantled it. Yi-sul showed her uncle what he'd almost signed himself into. And when Shim sent a message that her connection to Minho was a vulnerability, that she should be made invisible, she did not let Minho handle it. She went to the room herself. She stood in a Gangnam building that doesn't appear in any directory, and she told Shim Jung-soo directly, you built 11 years on the assumption that no one in this corridor was reading carefully. I read carefully. That is not an intervention. That is the work. Beside her, Kang Minho said nothing. He was simply there, unambiguously there. Shim Jung-soo left the room without what he came for. Later, in that empty room, she asked him, what was the first thing you put in the basin? Before the money, before the network? What was the very first thing? He said, the memory of a 9-year-old girl at a doorway, who saw me in a courtyard and didn't look away. He was switched at birth and given to cruelty. She saw him at 9 and carried him for 14 years. He found a basin in the dirt that multiplied everything. And when they finally stood in the same room, nothing could touch either of them, because they had put the right things in first.